Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Trey Hillier. Today we're going to be talking about ecstasy. So the objective of this presentation is to provide basic information on ecstasy, as well as some of the health issues associated with the drug. Some areas of discussion will be history, description of the drug itself, why people actually take ecstasy, some health effects, and a discussion at the end. So, history of ecstasy. Ecstasy was first developed in 1912 as an appetite suppressant, but never actually became commercially successful. It then returned in 1950 as a psychotherapeutic agent until in 1985, the FDA labeled it as a Schedule I drug after discovering neurotoxicity in laboratory animals. The drug became popular as a recreational drug in the mid-1980s and still continues to be now. This information came from Rochester's journal article, 3,4-methylene-dioxymethamphetamine, History of Neurochemistry and Toxicology, published in 1999. So a description of the drug itself, it's often referred to as MDMA, which stands for 3,4-methylene-dioxymethamphetamine. It's a ring substituted amphetamine derivative. So if you look at this picture up here, is this chemical structure of MDMA. If you follow the mouse, this benzene ring here with the amine substituent, this is actually methamphetamine. The only difference there between methamphetamine and MDMA is that it has the oxygen ring structure. It's classified as an enactogen, which is a drug that produces emotional and social effects, such as feelings of empathy or heightened sensory perception. And that information came from PubChem. And lastly, it takes about 20 minutes to feel the effects of ecstasy, which comes from Morgan's journal article, MDMA, Review Its Possible Persistent Psychological Effects, published in 2000. So why do people actually take ecstasy? The main goal is to achieve this feeling described as euphoria, which is a feeling of pleasure or excitement and intense feelings of happiness. You also get feelings of intimacy, increased arousal, and self-confidence, as well as enhanced sensory function, deeper emotional thought, even back to its original intent in the 1912, decreased appetite. All information on this slide came from Morgan's journal article. So into the health effects. Ecstasy users often feel depressed or have elevated anxiety after actually taking ecstasy. This is due to the rapid release of serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that regulates mood and memory. So basically what happens when you take ecstasy is that all your serotonin in your brain gets released, leaving the axons open for what I describe next is oxidative stress. So there's strong indication that ecstasy is toxic to the axons and serotonin cells. That comes from Steinkeller's journal article, The Ugly Side of Amphetamines, published in 2011. This is due to the depletion of tryptophan hydroxylase. Tryptophan hydroxylase is the rate-limiting enzyme in serotonin synthesis. So there's been found in lab rats that ecstasy actually inhibits tryptophan hydroxylase activity. That's also from Steinkeller's journal article. And lastly, the drug also induces some neurotransmitters such as norepinephrine, dopamine, and acetylcholine. Norepinephrine is a neurotransmitter that regulates blood pressure. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that regulates movement, attention, learning, and emotional responses. So you can kind of see that this is related to some of the symptoms that people have, emotional response or things along that line. And then lastly, acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter that signals muscle contraction. So a lot of times people will also see unwanted muscle contractions or twitching when they take ecstasy. And that comes from Rochester's journal article. Lastly, into discussion. Many of the toxicity effects are controversial due to unknown drug history of patients. So a lot of people that have a drug-free history are probably not very likely to come in and be part of a test that involves taking ecstasy. So this often leads to some of the clients having drug history that already has toxic effects to their brain, which can skew the results. Second, relation from animals to humans. There's arguments that the binding of serotonin and other neurotransmitters in the brain is different in animals than in humans, so that the relationship's not directly the same. Lastly, the purity of the drug used. So a lot of street drugs can be laced or cut with other chemicals or drugs that may or may not be toxic to the brain or have neurotoxicity. So, if you get a drug that's laced with something, that could be toxic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that ecstasy itself is toxic. And then lastly, probably the most important part is that it's hard to actually achieve quantitative data that shows direct correlation to neurotoxicity. So most of the information that they get about the neurotoxicity of ecstasy is based on theories after surveys of how people feel after they've taken the drug from their experiments they put on. You can't really just cut open someone's brain and see what's going on in there. That's what they're trying to do now, is find a way to actually show that this is toxic. But it's more than just a survey. So lastly, I'll leave with the question, is the risk worth potential brain damage? I say no to drugs. And here are my references. Any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.